Welcome to the Local Real Estate Show. Join us each week as we hear from local real estate professionals from around the country. We'll hear their stories, get their advice on the current market trends to the best ways to get the most out of your real estate purchases, sales, or investments. Whether you're just getting started and buying your first home or you are a seasoned real estate investor, there's something here for everyone. So buckle up and get ready to hear from the people who know the real estate industry the best. Now your host, Steve Champagne.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode. Today I have a special guest, Keith Bonham of EXP Realty. Welcome to the show, Keith. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing excellent. Thank you.
Okay, let's get right into it, Keith. Give me a brief introduction about yourself. Tell me about yourself.
Born and raised in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I've got a wonderful, beautiful wife of 12 years, Angela. I've got a 2-year-old Brennan and about to be 5-year-old Harper, and then 2 dogs, Bowser and Aspen.
It sounds like it's the perfect family. It's keeping you busy.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It was quite a shock to the system, balancing business once we started growing as a family. So
okay. So you're a real estate agent in the Cary area. Why did you become a real estate agent?
You know what? It was a lot of trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Yep.
I was born and raised in Raleigh, as I said. I attended Garner High School, which is right down the road, one of the outlying suburbs. Went to North Carolina State University, and just really built a really large network through that. And then when I was not in school, I was part of the restaurant industry for a very long time. And like I said, just combining all those networks and just sitting there thinking that eventually I was going to get into some type of sales. Why not sell the most expensive thing that I could possibly find and utilize that network that I've built in the area.
Okay, so that's why you got into real estate. So how long have you been a real estate agent?
8 years, actually, celebrating my 8-year anniversary on July 1st.
Okay. All right. So for our listeners, real estate agent and realtor is pretty much the same thing in their eyes, but there is a difference. Can you tell me what the difference is between a real estate agent and a realtor?
Yeah, actually, there is a difference. There is a required extra training that we must go through to keep our realtor status, ethical trading, and some ethical standards that we must adhere to. Obviously, in a line of business like real estate, you expect everybody to be ethical, but they make sure as a realtor that you are, getting that extra training to, things that are pertinent to our current market and our current times to make sure that we are maintaining those standards across our industry.
Okay. All right. So you're in Cary and you represent several markets around the Raleigh-Durham area. But we're going to talk about Cary today. Tell me a little bit about the community. If I was to move to Cary, what's the reason why I should be moving to Cary? What's so great about it?
I mean, the saying, there's a little something for everybody. I mean, that goes to say what everywhere. But what do you like to do? What do you do in your spare time?
I like to go to the shows. I like to entertainment. I like all of those things.
Okay, so that we've got that in Cary and the surrounding areas. That's the unique part, like you said. Being in the Raleigh area, you have all these outlying little towns that have their own little culture and their own little community that really can appease everybody. And then if you're into shows, into dining, we have a great food scene in Cary. And the interesting part is, I was born and raised in this area, and I watched Cary grow from this, sleepy little southern one stoplight town to, this great, community that just keeps growing and thriving that, you would never have expected it. But, it caters to everyone, like I said. And with the food and entertainment we talked about, if you like outdoors, there are several lakes that are local to the area. Very convenient, several golf courses, parks, hiking, places where you go hiking, just, a little bit of everything. And then, of course, you have the ability to have access to Raleigh, with a 10 to 15 minute drive down the road.
Sounds like a really nice place to live. Okay, so let's talk about the Cary real estate market. I'm assuming it's a hot market, right?
Yep. Yep. That always, it was always has been historically one of the hotter markets in the area.
Okay.
And, after COVID and after the downturn that we've had, we've
Hmm.
seen a really, really quick rebound to, inventory obviously is down, but the buyers
Hmm.
are coming out and we're seeing multiple offers again and stuff like that.
Okay, so there is pretty much all transactions are going to be multiple offers. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It's definitely a higher price point area.
Hmm.
If I have a first time home buyer with a lower budget, or any buyer with a lower budget, if
Hmm.
they're looking for something in Cary, we're usually going to have to turn to another area.
Okay.
And like I said, we saw a peak in inventory
Hmm.
last year around September, and then ever since then we were right about at about a month and a half of inventory, and we've already dropped, in that small 6 to 7 month period back to less than a half a month of, I'm sorry, less than a month of inventory,
Okay.
all while seeing the prices climb back to where they were when they peaked out in June of last year.
Let's talk a little bit about new construction. Is there a fair amount of new construction going on in the Cary market?
Not as much. There's some areas that are kind of, not in the Cary downtown proper area or Cary proper downtown area.
Yeah.
And that's just a matter of not having places to build. So they're still building out. There's still, parts that have Cary addresses, and there's some new construction in those areas.
Hmm.
But if you're looking in, closer to be to, or if you're looking to be closer towards the downtown area,
Hmm.
um, the new construction you're going to see is where they're buying older houses and raising them, and then building new construction like that.
Okay, so there's really no planned development. There's no land to go as far
Yeah,
as
it's very scarce in that area. Now we're
okay.
just seeing where they're building out.
Okay. All right. So we're going to dive into some questions now around purchasing a home. So this is for buyers, first time home buyers. And so let's jump into these questions. And so a question I have for you, do I need a real estate agent to buy a home?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the best part about having a buyer's agent is, as a
Hmm.
buyer, it's not there's no cost to you for that representation.
Okay.
The seller of the home and that listing agent, they have a commission agreement, and
Hmm.
that agreement includes a split being paid to that buyer agent.
Hmm.
So, my representing a buyer is going to be free to them. And
Okay.
then, of course, just kind of what we talked about. You're going to
Hmm.
want somebody that knows the market, that
Hmm.
knows, what's going on. Are there multiple offers going on? And then you could, develop a strategy to go about, how are we going to look at houses? Are we going to look at houses that are just coming on the market, knowing
Hmm.
that we're going to go into multiple offers, or are we going to try to look at some houses that maybe have been sitting for a little while, maybe because they're overpriced, or maybe because they need a little bit of work,
Hmm.
and have the ability to negotiate?
Okay. Which leads me into my next question. How does the negotiation and offer process work from a buyer side?
Well, that all depends, kind of what I was just talking about. Are we
Mhm,
looking at a house that is going to have multiple offers, or are we
mhm,
looking at a house where, we're going to be the only offer and we're going to have, negotiating power?
mhm,
It's, two different strategies, of course. And as a buyer's agent, we want to make sure our buyers are equipped and
mhm,
have the expectations set going into these situations, so they're not let down if they don't know that multiple offers are happening, and all of a sudden they think they're putting an offer in and they're going to get a response, and they don't have a clue that there's 15
mm,
other offers on the table.
yeah. Okay, so let's say they get a house. Now they have to do this thing called an appraisal. What happens during the appraisal process?
The lender is going to hire an appraiser to come out, and they're going to pull recently sold properties in the neighborhood
Mhm,
and in the surrounding neighborhoods, and they're going to establish a value for that home, because
mhm,
naturally, if they are lending a buyer money to
mhm,
purchase a home, they want to make sure that the collateral for that loan is worth what they're lending.
yep,
And as a buyer's agent, we're hoping that the listing agent did their homework,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of we're hoping that that list price is going to be close to appraised value. But
Mm-hmm.
as a buyer's agent, I'm also making sure before we're making an offer on that
Mm-hmm.
home that list price or that offer, whatever we're making, it
Mm-hmm.
aligns with where we think that appraisal is going to come back at.
Okay, that's a good answer. All right, so let's talk about down payments. Now, they can pay as little as 0, much as 20%. When the bubble happened in 2008, pretty much lenders were at 20%, but today things seem to be freeing up a little bit. How much of a down payment does a new home buyer need? What's the range a little bit? Can we talk about that?
I mean, as you mentioned, we have programs with credit unions right now that are doing 100% financing for first-time home buyers.
Okay.
There's your conventional that is going to be a 3 or 5%.
Okay.
FHA is going to be a 3 or 5%.
Mm-hmm.
And with obviously, I hate to use the word crisis, but with
Mm-hmm.
the crisis we're facing with home affordability,
Mm-hmm.
in our state, North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, we have a couple really good programs for down payment assistance.
Okay.
So, I actually had, I'm glad you asked this because I actually had this conversation Monday night with somebody I was talking to.
Yeah.
It was, hey, Keith, I'm looking to buy a house. Realistically, how much money do I need for a down payment?
Mm-hmm.
And for, whatever reason, whether it's marketing or I don't know who started the 20% down. I know that removes the PMI from the loan.
Yep.
But this 20% down is just drilled into society's head that, they're not going to be able to buy a house without 20% down.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to explain, hey, you can have as little as no money down with some of these programs, 3-5% down in the conventional. And he said, wow, that gives me a sigh of relief because I was thinking I'd need like $50,000 and I'm never going to be able to buy a home. And, then I proceeded to tell him about the down payment assistance program. And that was, real quick. My sister actually used that program, was able to buy a house with basically the money she spent on inspections out of pocket. And all that is it's a second mortgage that's written on that house. It sits there. It does not gain interest. You don't make payments on it. After 10 years, every year, $3,000 of the $15,000 down payment assistance that they give you is relieved. If you happen to stay in a house for 15 years, that $15,000 loan goes away. And the flip side about it is, well, what happens, Keith, if I decide to sell in 5 years? Well, following the trends of our area, your house is going to appreciate more than $15,000 in that 5 years, and it will cover the cost of paying back that loan once you sell the home. So you'll have enough equity to cover that, that down payment assistance. So, I mean, to answer your question, really, you could buy a house with very little, a couple $1,000s out of pocket right now.
Wow, that's excellent. And who is putting that program together?
North Carolina. It's actually through North Carolina. There's several lenders that participate in the program, and it's just a matter of finding a lender that that is participating in the
program. Sounds like a great program to help with the affordability of homes.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, it makes up that gap because even 3%, our average sales price. I won't even talk about the average sales price in Cary because we're getting into the upper above 500,000. But in our market, entry level homes are sitting anywhere from the upper twos to low 300,000. So you're talking 3%. $10,000 is a lot of money to save up for a down payment.
Yeah, it
so
is.
That's alleviating that obstacle for a lot of home buyers.
So again, you have to be a first-time home buyer to take advantage of this program.
Actually, not. They have similar programs for second home purchases. Not so much second home meaning a investment property, but move up home. So you don't necessarily have to be a first-time home buyer. They have a separate program actually for people that have already, are currently living in a home looking to move up.
Okay. All right. I got one more question around the whole buy side of the real estate transaction. And that is, what is the difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval for a mortgage? There's been some confusion, and folks should know who's buying a home should know the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a great tool. Obviously, we are not submitting offers without a pre-qualification, and that's where the lender is going to you're going to submit some financial information to the lender.
Mhm.
They're going to look over that financial information, and then they're going to give you a thumbs up saying, hey,
Mhm.
based on what you told me, as long as you could prove all this stuff down the road,
Mhm.
like you're going to be able to buy a house, and they'll give you obviously a certain amount.
Mhm.
Now, one of the tools we like to use in a market like we're in now, where you're, a competitive market for buyers, is that pre-approval, which the lender is actually going to go through that underwriting process. They're going to go ahead and get that documentation from a buyer, and they're going to, basically do the underwriting process. So that's complete. And then really all that's needed to close the loan at that point is, once we go under contract on a home, the title work on the home, and then of course that appraisal that we just talked about. And it gives the seller in a multiple offer situation a little more peace of mind if you do have that pre-approval,
Yep.
because you're not, the seller is not faced with that uncertainty of, okay, is this buyer, going to be
Sure.
able to make it through this underwriting process and actually get this loan. So it's definitely a power. I mean, I don't want to say it's the same as cash,
Mhm.
but it's as basically as close to as cash purchase as you can get, because like I said,
Mhm.
you're already going to have all that financial stuff approved.
Mhm.
And on top of that, a lot of lenders will give you a shortened closing window. I've heard some lenders will do as quick as 14 days.
Okay.
So you're really putting yourself, almost neck and neck with any cash offer at that point, as far as, closing and peace of mind to a seller.
So basically puts you in a power position when you're in a multiple offer situation,
Correct.
compared to,
Correct.
so if you're dealing with other folks who are just, pre-qualified, they're probably not going to be considered part of the race for the property.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move into some questions around selling. I'm assuming you do represent sellers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. So how do you determine the current market value of a home for them?
Kind of the same way we just talked about with the appraisal process. I'm going to look
Yep.
at the neighborhood. I'm going to see, hopefully there's something, a couple houses in the neighborhood that have been sold recently. That's going to give us the best gauge, because that's going to give us ages, homes of similar age, similar style, assuming similar finishes. But also we're going to want to look outside the neighborhood and find some comparables as well.
Okay.
And those are going to be homes that kind of match what I just talked about: same age, same size, same finishes, and we're gonna basically look to see where the market's going. And that's where a lot of listings in the first part of this year have sat on the market, because you had sellers looking at these prices that sellers were getting, homes were selling for last year.
Yeah.
And they were saying, ooh, I saw where, my neighbor sold for, 500,000. Let's go ahead and list for 500,000, but not realizing that we were in a decreasing market as far as home values were concerned, because inventory was stacking up. So you had a lot of people listing a home too high, and then in turn basically chasing the market back down with price reductions.
Okay.
So that's something else that we're going to take into consideration is, over the past 3 months, have homes been appreciating or depreciating in that neighborhood? And we're going to stay ahead of that game. If they have been depreciating, then we're going to want to list in the lower part of our comparables, just to make it so, we're not overpriced in the market and turning around and chasing at that point.
Okay. All right. So I'm sure you get asked this question a lot when you take on a listing: is, should I make repairs or upgrades before I list my home?
It's a case by case basis.
Okay.
Every home is different. Every home has been lived in different. Every home is going to be in a different condition. What I like to do is I like to come down to the home and see it firsthand.
Okay.
And I put together a honey-do list of, you want to take care of this item, or you may want to repaint these scuff marks. I really don't want to get my clients in a situation where they're spending a lot of money. What I tell them is that a lot of sweat equity and a little bit of elbow grease and some time spent is going to go a long way.
Okay.
And it always helps to get an extra set of eyes on your home. Of course, you walk through your home and walk back. You walk through your home and walk past that same scuff on the wall, 15 times a day, and it just gets ingrained in your subconscious,
Mm-hmm.
it really helps to get an agent to come through and say, hey, we need to take care of these items, because me walking into your home for the first time is going to be the same as a potential buyer walking through your home for the first times. And that first impression is everything. So, if you have dirty baseboards and scuffs on the wall, that buyer is going to be looking for other issues with the house, because they're going to assume that it wasn't well taken care of or well kept. So we want to, eliminate any small issues that are easy to take care of. So it gives a good first impression when that, potential buyer is walking through the door.
Okay.
If if your kitchen isn't upgraded, if you don't have granite countertops and you have old cabinets, and we're going to come in your home and tell you to spend $30,000 on a kitchen upgrade, probably not. But we're also going to take that into consideration when we're pricing the home. In comparison to the other homes, if they did have upgraded kitchens or if they did have newer floors, stuff like that. So not necessarily going to tell a seller, hey, we need to do all these repairs. The things that are feasible, the things that are easy, like I said, a little bit of sweat equity will go a long ways when listing a home in this market.
Okay. When is the best time of the year to sell a home in the Cary market?
Traditionally you always have, hey, the spring selling season, but in all honesty, there's a market to sell a home all 4 seasons, all year round in this area. Obviously we have a milder climate. We don't get a lot of snow. So when you have the northern states and the Northwest, real estate shuts down for a couple of months practically because of snow piling up and stuff like that. So we don't have those obstacles to overcome during those winter months. And, there's always people that are moving here, and there's always people that have a reason to sell, whether it's job relocation or life event. So, there's always something going on in the real estate market in this area. So yes, you're going to get a lot more traffic, buyer wise in the spring. But on the other hand, you're also going to have a lot more competition on the market in the spring, because naturally people think that that's the selling season. So they're going to want to be more inclined to sell during that time.
Okay. So multiple offices is part of the real estate market right now in Cary. So how are you handling that for your sellers?
So on the sell side, we kind of, the first thing I tell my seller is, obviously, if I know it's in a hot area, it's going to have a lot of showings. I want to let them know ahead of time that they're going to be in total control. A lot of people have this preconceived notion of that when they put their house on the market, that all of a sudden it's going to be this frenzy where they're going to get a random call on a 2 o'clock on a Thursday where they need to leave work to go get the house ready to show, or they're going to have to leave the home show ready every time they leave the house. And what we really try to do is we try to alleviate that by the way we schedule our showings. And we're going to put a house on the market on a Wednesday. We're going to block showings for a couple of days to give that listing time to syndicate out and to get to everybody's email inboxes. And then we're going to consolidate those showings over the weekend. If we are anticipating multiple offers, we're going to go ahead and lay out the rules with the seller and get those expectations together that, hey, you're probably going to need to be gone most of the weekend. And I'll let you know when we start to get a couple offers, but I'm not going to get in touch with you every time we get an offer. As long as you're giving me permission, we're going to let everybody know there are multiple offers on the table, and we're going to set a deadline for a Sunday night or Monday morning. And then we'll reconvene after that time, and I'll present all the offers as written, and we'll kind of talk about the pros and cons of each offer, and we'll make a decision.
Okay. All right. So we briefly touched on this at the beginning of the show around commissions. What is the average commission when it comes to real estate? How's that work when it comes to that whole part of the transaction?
As far as the commission is concerned, everybody operates their own business. Everybody has their own commission split that their brokerage dictates. Right now, what we're seeing for our brokerage, my brokerage, we charge a 6% listing fee. And then that listing fee is split with the buyer's agent.
Okay. And generally, how is that split?
Generally, depending on if it goes lower, if it goes to 5%, it's usually 2.5, 2.5.
Okay.
Generally, what we're seeing in this market is, my brokerage is a 3.6 to the listing side, and then 2.4 to the buyer side.
Okay. We got one more question around selling, and this is capital gains. I realize you're not an accountant or an attorney, but can we talk a little bit about capital gains and what a homeowner should expect if to pay or not pay?
Yeah. So if you are, well, first of all, if it's your primary residence, your capital gains, you have a free $250,000 to make on the sale of your home.
Okay.
And that is per person. If you are married, then that number goes up to 500,000.
Okay.
So what that basically means is that if you purchased a home, we'll just do easy math. If we purchased a home for $250,000, decide to sell it 2 years later for $500,000, get that $250,000 as a single person tax free. Once again, if you're married, you get up to $500,000.
Okay. And we're not seeing that type of appreciation in the market, hopefully. Not.
Well, I mean, when dealing with, my mom's lived in our parents' house now for 30 years, and I don't even want to cry and think about how much she purchased it for. I'm pretty sure it was the mid 90s, and I don't mean the year. I mean mid $90,000. So so when she goes to sell, obviously she will be paying capital gains because it is definitely appreciated more than the $250,000 over those 30 years. But the other thing that comes into play, obviously, is with your, investment properties and stuff like that. So owning an investment property and selling it, it won't be your primary residence. So you would be set wouldn't be your primary residence 3 of the past 5 years, and you would be subject to capital gains as well on that.
Okay. And that goes into a whole other subject around taxation.
That's when I just say that's out of my wheelhouse. I would call the tax person or an accountant and talk to them about that.
Okay. All right. So we're going to wrap up this interview. I got 2 more questions for you. And the first one is, why should I be working with you, whether I'm buying or selling a house, versus working with one of the hundreds of other real estate agents or realtors that's in the Cary market?
I mean, I'm not gonna dwell on hey, I was born and raised in this area, but obviously I know the area very well. I've watched it grow and watched the market change so much, especially over the past 5 years in this area. And it doesn't really, I'm not going to say it doesn't, you can work with whoever you want, but I definitely would encourage anyone, to interview their potential buyer agent or seller agent, ask them about the market, ask them what's happening, ask them about things you've heard from coworkers and friends about their experiences and what happened to them and how they would handle those situations. It's going to be important, like I said, especially on the buy side, to have different strategies ready depending on the type of home you're looking at, if it's going to be a multiple offer situation, if it's not. And then, of course, on the sell side, I pride myself in going above and beyond with my marketing. I do a great job of my in-home marketing. So when a buyer's agent is bringing a buyer into a home where I'm the one that sat with the seller for hours and learned all the cool things and great upgrades they've done, how do I convey that to a buyer and a buyer's agent that's never walked in that home before? So we do a lot of in-home marketing. So there are no unanswered questions when a buyer and a buyer's agent come through a home, and just try to drive home the value of all those upgrades they've done. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it.
All right. So basically you're really focused on marketing that property for them. Okay. All right. So if someone wants to work with you when it comes to buying or selling their home, how can they get in touch with you?
Obviously, cell phone number 919, and I believe it's scrolling down here at the bottom. 919-539-9363. You can go to my website, keithbonhamrealtygroup.com. You could also email me at keith@keithbonhamrealty.com.
Keith, thanks for coming on the show. Folks, till the next time, Make it a great day. Take care.
Steve, thank you much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Local Real Estate Show. If you are a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, or a closing company and would like to be a guest on an upcoming show, please visit thelocalrealestateshow.com for more information. Thanks for listening.